All right. Yesterday we did the input costs example. So on your paper, your supply problem set, you should be doing or should have done Q5 input costs. If you have not already done that yet, you need to do that at this time. So for input costs, you'll just put the if input costs rise, supply decreases, and vice versa. That goes in box 1 for input costs. And then for your scenarios, you have the instructions for your scenarios here. You just choose a product that you want to make it sell, choose one input cost, have the price of that input cost go down, and that results in an increase in supply. And then you do the opposite for the opposite scenario. We did this yesterday, so that's why I'm going through this one really quickly. But if you haven't already done that yet, you need to do that on your own using the notes here. The instructions on here are clear. Again, if you go to resource, if you go right here where it says right here, that goes in box 1 on your problem set. Okay, so there we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is taxes and subsidies. So that's question 6 on your paper, Q6, box 1. A new subsidy will increase the supply. A new tax on producers decreases the supply. So that goes in box 1. Essentially, if the government gives people money to make things, they will make more of those things. If the government taxes what you produce, then you'll produce less of whatever that thing is. So we already did the definition of subsidy, and then I have an example at the bottom. Here I have an example of how Georgia subsidizes the film industry and TV shows. So all these shows and many more, over 200 films, 60 TV shows, have been made in Georgia in the last 5-10 years. And it's due to the subsidy that they get. Georgia gives the best subsidy of any state, and as a result, they have had a significant increase in film and TV projects that are made there. Again, you also have tax. So a tax is, now this is a tax on the producer of a product. So anytime the government wants to discourage the production of a good or service, they will tax it. For example, the government taxes tobacco production. They also, as this screen shows, tax liquor production. So for example, in Arizona, as you can see here, the Arizona government taxes the production of liquor, like vodka or whiskey, at $3 a gallon. If you look at Washington and Oregon, they have the highest excise taxes on liquor, $33.22 and $21.95. So we would assume that not very many people are willing to produce liquor in those states because the taxes are so high. We would assume that if someone is producing liquor, they would want to produce it in a state with low taxes, like Colorado, Texas, Kansas, Arizona. Those are all good ones, okay, because they have low taxes on liquor production. Now, at this time, it would be a good idea for you to pause the video if you need time to do your subsidy and tax question. So for your scenario on your paper, subsidy scenario, increasing supply, choose any product you want, have the government start subsidizing it, and then that will increase the supply of that product. For example, the government subsidizes apples, and that results in an increase in the supply of apples. Okay, so and then for the tax, so this is, after I say this is what would be a good idea to pause it. That's what I should have said. If you want to tax, if the government taxes something, it will decrease the supply. So for your scenario, for tax scenario, just have the government tax the production of something, and that results in a decrease in the supply of that thing. Okay, and now I have a phone call. So, all right, pause the video if you'd like to, and I'm going to take my phone call here. Hello. Yes. Yes. Anthony, can you go do a vision test in the health office? Thank you. Sorry. Okay. All right. The next one we're going to do, if you've unpaused your video, if you need to do that, is number of suppliers. So we have more suppliers pushes the supply curve to the right, less suppliers shifts the supply curve to the left. So for example, um, for more suppliers. This is a pretty simple one. The more people produce a product, the more supply of that product there will be. So if you think locally around Red Mountain High School, we've seen a significant increase in the number of coffee shops. You have Black Rock Coffee, you have The Fix, you have Human Bean, Hava Java. Many of those have opened in just the last couple of years. And of course, we have Starbucks and Dutch Bros and probably some other ones I'm not thinking of. But every time a new coffee shop opens, the supply of coffee increases, okay, or coffee drinks in our city increases. Also, if a business on the flip side were to go out of business, then there would be less of that product. So recently, a couple of the Village Inn restaurants that we've had in Mesa have closed. For example, there was one on Wrecker and McKellips. When that went out of business, the supply of pie decreased. Also, Filiberto's is probably never going to go out of business, but if they did, the supply of burritos would decrease. So I have the instructions on the top of the screen here. All you need to do is have like a new store, a new producer go into business, and that results in an increase in the supply of a product. And then do the opposite. Again, you can pause the video here if you would like to have a minute to do your paper. So this would be a great opportunity to pause. Okay. All right, now if you look at Q8, you have future expectations. I've already filled most of this in for you. This only works one way with future expectations. Wheat farmers expect the price of wheat to go up in 6 months, so they decrease their supply of wheat. The idea here is if I have something like a house or wheat or a collectible, a rare Pokemon card, and I think the price of that thing is going to go up in the future, I will hold on to it and wait for the price to go up, thus decreasing the supply. And then when the price does go up at some point in the future, I will then sell it. So I have the example of a house here that was $265,000 a few years ago. And if you look at the historical price of the house, it went from 113 up to 265. Now it's worth over $400,000. So the question would be, based on the price history, would you want to sell it or would you want to hold on to it, assuming you could do either? And the answer would be you would probably want to hold on to it because the price had been increasing quickly, and it kept doing that. All right. If you need to, you can draw a decreasing supply graph for wheat for Q8, box 3. All right, last couple of things here quickly. I don't have this on your paper. You might add it to the back where you have a blank space here, because I do think there's one or two questions on either a quiz or test about this. But we assume that any new technology will result in an increase in the supply of a product. I just went to Angie's Lobster, which is a newish restaurant that's owned by the people that had Salad and Go. And I went there the other day, and I noticed that they had an automated fryer system where the worker put the fries in the fry box and pushed a button, and then the fry box went down into the frying oil, and then like another one came up a few seconds later. And so this is an example of technology, which is if you have an automated fryer system, you're going to increase your supply of French fries because the likelihood that you're going to overcook them or like do it wrong is way lower. So I would say that automated system has resulted in an increase in the supply of French fries. Any new technology is going to increase the supply of a product. The two pictures I have here, one of them is a security guard robot on the top that can provide security services. As more and more of these types of things are developed, companies are going to use more of them, drones and robots, to do security. And the supply of security services will thus increase. And then the bottom one is robots that carry shelves in an Amazon factory, making it easier for them to deliver packages. All right, and then last two things. One is elasticity of supply. You can just put this on your paper here. Oh, on the bottom, other notes, sorry. Down here, it says define elasticity of supply, and then what is the only factor that affects this product's elasticity of supply. So basically it's time. You can read this. You may want to pause the video here and just write that down. You'll have a question on the quiz and test about elasticity of supply. Basically, if it takes a long time to produce, like say oranges, I have to plant trees, wait for the trees to grow, and then I can harvest the oranges. Or if I wanted more hotel rooms, I'd have to build a new hotel. That takes a long time, so we would say that's inelastic supply because I can't do it quickly. If I can do it quickly, it's elastic. All right, last thing. And again, this isn't necessarily on your paper. I might add it to the back here. There are 2 questions on your quiz about this. One, we'll keep it simple. If you're at equilibrium, all the supply gets eaten up by all the demand. If you're at equilibrium, all of the supply gets eaten up by all the demand. Now, if for whatever reason the market price, let's say the landlords tried to sell or provide rented houses for over $600 a month, then let's say they went to $800, there would be too much supply, not enough demand, and we would have a surplus. If the market price was below $600, we would have too much demand and not enough supply, and thus a shortage. So the idea is you're going to see some quiz questions where like someone charges above the market price or above equilibrium, and if that happens, surplus, and if it's below, shortage. Okay, I'll talk more about that later when I do the puppy economics video, puppy market video, we'll deal with that later. But just again, if I'm up here, this is surplus land, anything above equilibrium, and this is short land because I'm going to be having, if the price is too low, people are going to want to buy it, and I'm not going to want to supply it. So then I'm going to run out, and then people are going to be mad because they don't get it. Okay, you may experience this anytime someone has a really good sale, like they run out of it. Like if it's a ridiculously low price. Okay, so you can use this to help you complete your problem set. You should have that done, and then we'll take our quiz tomorrow in class. So this is meant to help you do that.